She didn't love you. She loved the power she had when you kept proving your worth to her. You ever get the feeling that the love you keep chasing was never meant for you in the first place? Like every time you think you finally found it, you end up sitting alone again, wondering how it slipped through your fingers. You were good to her. You were honest. You bent yourself into shapes you didn't even know were possible just to fit inside the frame she had in her mind. And still, she left. Or worse, she stayed. But only to feed off the version of you that wasn't real. The version you performed. The version you hoped would finally be enough. Tell me something. Who taught you to believe that love meant sacrificing yourself? Because Jung, he would have called this a possession, not a relationship. A psychic contract with something you can't see, but that controls every move you make. She didn't break you. She simply awakened the part of you that was already dying to be destroyed. You're not alone in this. Most men won't admit it, but they've been there. That place where you give everything and still, it's never enough. You work harder. You text first. You remember every little detail she once said in passing because you thought that's what love is, remembering her when she never really saw you. But let's name the wound. Let's call it what it is. It's not heartbreak. It's self-erasure. It's the slow bleeding out of identity in the name of being loved. It's sacrificing your truth for her validation and then wondering why you feel hollow even when she says she loves you. Because maybe what she loves is the mask, not the man. Maybe you've become so good at guessing what women want that you've forgotten what you want, who you are, what your spine feels like when you finally stand up straight. And here's the cruel part. They don't even ask for it. Not out loud. You did it before they ever needed to. Because somewhere in your childhood you learned this. To be loved you must disappear, be easy, be agreeable, be useful, be impressive but not too much. Be strong but only when it serves her feelings. Be a man but not the wrong kind. And now you walk around like a ghost of a man, functional, present, but gone, smiling at the right times, nodding when expected, asking her what she wants for dinner because God forbid you make a decision that upsets her balance. And deep down in that part of you you've been afraid to look at, you're angry, not at her, at yourself, for trading your soul for crumbs of attention from someone who doesn't even know your middle name. That's the wound. It's not love you crave. It's the permission to exist without needing to be pleasing. Carl Jung didn't mince words. He said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. So let's break this open. Not gently, surgically. You think you're falling in love? No. You're falling into a projection, a theatre, a psychic hallucination where she becomes the screen and your unresolved mother wound becomes the film. You're not choosing her. Your anima is. That hidden feminine image inside you formed when you were too young to understand love, too desperate to be chosen, and too powerless to say no. The anima lives in your shadow, and if you haven't faced her, she chooses for you. She'll whisper, she's the one. Not because she is, but because she's familiar. Because she reminds you of the mother who loved you only when you performed. Because she triggers the same ache you learned to call love. And now every time a woman is distant, hot and cold, unavailable, you mistake it for passion. Why? Because your nervous system only knows love through abandonment. It's not romantic, it's biological. You were wired to earn it. So when it finally arrives freely, it feels boring. Safe feels like nothing. Because the part of you that's choosing still believes you're not enough on your own. So you chase chaos. Because chaos feels familiar, and familiarity feels like home. Even if that home had broken windows, screaming hallways, and doors that never opened for your truth. Here's what Jung would ask. Who inside you is doing? The loving? Is it the man you are now, or the boy who was once ignored? Because if it's the boy, you're not loving her. You're begging, you're performing, you're reenacting. Every smile becomes a transaction. Every silence a punishment. Every compliment she gives you becomes your proof of worth. And when she pulls away, you don't just lose the woman, you lose the identity you built around being lovable. That's why it hurts so damn much. You weren't just rejected, you were erased. Jung had a name for this inflation. It's when your soul gets swallowed by an archetype, the hero, the saviour, the nice guy. And now you're stuck. Trapped inside a mask that can never cry, never scream, never say, "This is not who I am." You think it's love, but it's a possession. You've been hijacked by your own unconscious. There's an old story, not one you'll find in textbooks, not one that ends neatly with a moral, but one whispered in men's dreams for generations. They say There once was a man who wandered into the forest to find a woman made of light. She appeared only at dusk. Her skin glowed with the last breath of the sun. Her voice sounded like every woman he'd ever loved and lost. She smiled at him the way his mother never did, and in that smile he saw redemption. She didn't speak. She didn't need to. He followed, day after day, deeper into the woods. He left behind his home, his sword, his name. All he wanted was her gaze. But here's the thing, she never walked. She only floated. She never touched. She only vanished. And every time he thought he was close, she'd disappear behind another tree, another promise, another version of herself. He told himself it was a test, that he had to prove his devotion, that she was worth the sacrifice. He carved poems into bark. He starved himself to mimic her weightlessness. He bled into the soil, thinking it would bloom something worthy. Until one night the forest went silent. The light woman did not appear. Only a mirror, old cracked, leaning against a tree that looked too much like the one outside his childhood bedroom. He looked inside and saw himself, but not as he was now. He saw the boy, the one who stood outside locked doors, the one who performed silence to be safe, the one who confused being wanted with being used. And then he looked up, and there she was, not glowing, not floating, not perfect, just a woman. Tired, cruel, holding the mirror with a grin that didn't reach her eyes. She leaned close and whispered, "You never loved me. You only loved the wound I represent." And then she shattered, not like glass, like illusion, and all that remained was the forest and the man, finally, with his name returning to his mouth. That's the story. That's the dream. Every man has wandered into that forest at least once. Some never leave. Some keep chasing the woman made of light, not realizing she is only made of memory. A phantom built by the parts of you you were too afraid to meet in the daylight. Maybe this is the moment you've been avoiding. Not because you're weak, but because you're tired. Tired of holding up a mask you didn't ask for. Tired of chasing women who don't love you, just admire how well you perform. But let me say this as clearly as I can. You're not broken. You're simply echoing a wound that was never yours to begin with. You were taught to please, to stay small, to be palatable, to earn affection by being agreeable, adaptable, invisible. And now you're addicted to women who confirm that lesson. They don't see you. Because deep down, you don't want to be seen. Because to be seen means being vulnerable, means being judged, means the fantasy dies. But fantasies are prisons, and you've been their inmate long enough. Here's the truth. You were never meant to be her savior. You were meant to save yourself. You were never meant to mold yourself into her desires. You were meant to find your own. The women you chase are mirrors for the boy inside you who still thinks love equals performance. You don't need to destroy that boy. You need to meet him, hold him, tell him. You don't have to try so hard anymore. And that's where the work begins. Not in trying to attract better women, not in playing the dating game smarter, not in tactics or strategies, but in standing still, in silence, in truth, facing the parts of you that ache to be chosen, and finally choosing yourself. This is individuation, the process Jung spoke of. The path where the mask falls, the shadow rises, and the self begins to take its first breath. You stop asking, what do women want, and start asking, what does my soul require? Because maybe love isn't something you find. Maybe it's something you become when you finally stop hiding. So now you know, not everything, but enough. Enough to see that it wasn't her beauty that captured you. It was your blindness. It wasn't her power that destroyed you. It was your surrender. It wasn't fate that brought her into your life. It was your unconscious pulling strings behind the scenes whispering, maybe this time I'll get it right. But there is no right when you're still living as a ghost. There is no she who can complete a man who hasn't yet become himself. Women don't want you to find this video not because they're evil, but because they benefit from the version of you that doesn't know how to say no. That doesn't know who he is without their approval. That doesn't realize he's the storm and the shelter. The truth is brutal. You were never looking for love. You were looking for permission to exist. And now that you've found it, what will you do with it? Will you walk away from the illusions, the fantasies, the projection? Will you let the boy in, you grieve, and the man in you rise? Will you keep chasing the light woman in the forest? or finally turn toward the fire within, I can't answer for you. No one can. But if your hands are trembling, if your heart is louder now than it's been in years, if your body feels like it just heard something ancient, then maybe it's already begun. Maybe you don't need another answer. Just the courage to walk forward without her. Just the spine to stand in your own gravity. And maybe that's where love begins, not with her, but with you. Now it's your turn. Leave a comment below. What truth hit you the hardest? What mask are you ready to drop? And if this spoke to your soul, if you felt seen in the quiet parts you usually hide, subscribe. Because we go deeper here, not into women, but into the self. This isn't a channel, it's a reckoning, and you've just begun your return